The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. It was silver and smooth, with strange blue lights that pulsed along its hull. Within hours, every TV channel, radio station, and news site carried the same message. "We come in peace." Admiral John Miller stood at the window of the United Earth Defense Headquarters, watching smaller shuttlecraft descend toward the landing zone in Nevada. As head of Earth's Space Forces, he was chosen to meet these visitors. He straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "Ready, sir?" asked his aide. Miller nodded. "As ready as anyone can be to meet aliens." The landing site buzzed with activity. Scientists adjusted equipment while soldiers maintained a respectful perimeter. The first shuttle touched down with barely a sound, its door sliding open to reveal the aliens. Ambassador Skither stepped out first. He stood 7 feet tall with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer. 4 arms emerged from his ceremonial robes, and his large eyes blinked sideways at the bright Earth sun. "Welcome to Earth," Miller said, stepping forward with his hand extended. Skither looked at the hand with confusion before mimicking the gesture. "Greetings from the Galactic Council. We represent 47 spacefaring civilizations united in peace and progress." Behind Skither came representatives from 12 other species, some humanoid, others wildly different. One seemed made of living crystal, while another floated rather than walked. "We detected your experimental faster-than-light journey 3 months ago," Skither continued. "It is standard procedure to welcome new species into our fold." The meeting moved to a prepared conference room. Miller sat at one end of the table, joined by Earth's top scientists and diplomats. President Diane Russell watched from a secure video feed. Skither's assistant, a small green being named Pip, projected a hologram showing hundreds of worlds. "The Council has brought prosperity to all these civilizations," Skither explained. "Our standard first contact protocols ensure smooth integration." Miller accepted the tablet-like device containing the treaty. As he read, his expression darkened. "This requires Earth to pay resource tributes," he asked. "A small contribution," Skither said. "All members provide 3% of their planetary resources annually." Miller continued reading, "And these sections limit our military development and restrict certain technology research. For everyone's safety." Another alien, Ambassador Drell, cut in. "Young races often develop dangerous technologies without understanding the consequences." For 3 days, the negotiations continued. Earth's team requested modifications to nearly every section of the treaty. The aliens grew increasingly frustrated. "These terms are standard," Skither insisted. "Every council race accepts them." On the 3rd day, Miller received a message from President Russell. "Trust your judgment." Miller looked up at the assembled aliens. "The people of Earth have reviewed your proposal. We appreciate your visit, but we must decline these terms." A murmur ran through the alien delegation. Ambassador Drell's skin changed from orange to deep red. "This is unprecedented. The benefits of council membership far outweigh these small concessions." "Perhaps to you," Miller replied, "but humans value their independence. Without council protection, you will be vulnerable," Skither warned. "There are dangerous elements in the galaxy." Miller stood up. "We'll handle our own affairs," he said simply, closing the tablet. "Your ships are welcome to refuel before departing." The alien delegation sat in stunned silence as Miller and his team left the room. "What do we do now?" Pip asked Skither. "Report back to the council," Skither replied, his voice worried. "The humans are not like other species we've encountered. They're unpredictable." That evening, as the alien ships departed Earth orbit, Council observer Mel Tick sent an urgent message to Galactic Headquarters on Station Harmony 7. First contact unsuccessful. Humans rejected all standard protocols. Request emergency session to determine next steps. These creatures are unlike any we have encountered before. At Harmony 7, High Chancellor Vex Moore read the message twice. In 3,000 years, no species had ever rejected council membership. The emergency lights in his chamber began to flash. High Chancellor Vex Moore paced the circular chamber of Harmony 7 Station. Around him, representatives from all 47 council races watched with nervous eyes. The curved walls displayed images of Earth from various angles. "This has never happened before," Vex Moore said. His long fingers tapped against his ceremonial staff. "No species has ever rejected our terms." The emergency session had been called within hours of the ships returning from Earth. Now, 2 days later, the council chamber hummed with worried voices. Ambassador Skither stepped forward. The humans were polite but firm. They seemed particularly troubled by the resource requirements and technology restrictions. "What do we know about these humans?" asked Counselor Brax, a reptilian being whose scales shimmered under the chamber lights. Intelligence analyst Quintera moved to the center of the room. Small and gray-skinned, she touched the control panel on her wrist. New images appeared on the walls. "We've been studying Earth transmissions since we detected their first space signals," she explained. "Their history is concerning." The council watched in silence as images of human wars flashed across the screens. World War Ida, Vietnam, the Middle East conflicts, the water wars of the 2030s. "They fight constantly," Quintera continued, "not just against each other, but against their environment, against limitations. They advance their technology at a rate 5 times faster than the council average." A murmur spread through the chamber. "Most troubling is this," Quintera said, bringing up new data. "When faced with extinction-level threats, humans don't surrender. They become more creative, more determined. They unite." High Chancellor Vex Moore slumped into his chair. "Recommendations." The chamber erupted with competing voices. "We must contain them before they spread," shouted General Crud of the Warrior Krovac. "No, we should form a special alliance," countered the peaceful Arcturian delegate. "Their creativity could benefit us all." "A show of force might make them reconsider," suggested Ambassador Drell. "They need to understand the consequences of standing alone." Unknown to the council, a small human woman sat in the shadows of the upper gallery. Susan Barnes, Earth's unofficial observer, recorded every word. The Arcturians had secretly invited her, believing communication was better than conflict. Susan tapped a message into her concealed device. "Council divided. Military action possible. Some seek alliance. Sending full transcript." Back on Earth, President Diane Russell received Susan's message in the secure room beneath the White House. She turned to Admiral Miller. "It seems our new friends are upset," she said. Miller nodded. "We expected that. Are defense preparations underway?" "Yes. General Maria Hayes is activating Protocol Prometheus. All hidden satellites are coming online. The lunar base is fully staffed." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "We've been preparing for this possibility since we detected their observation probes 10 years ago. They think they've been watching us. They don't realize how much we've been watching them." On Harmony 7, the debate continued for hours. Finally, High Chancellor Vex Moore raised his staff, calling for quiet. "We will vote," he announced. 3 options: isolation, negotiation, or demonstration of power. The votes appeared on the main screen. The council was split, but the largest group favored a show of force followed by new negotiations. "Then it is decided," Vex Moore said. "We will send a larger delegation with an ultimatum. The humans must understand there are only 2 paths: council membership or complete isolation." In her hidden spot, Susan sent her final message. "Decision made. Ultimatum coming. Military display planned." As the council session ended, the Arcturian delegate approached Vex Moore privately. "Chancellor, I fear we misunderstand these humans. Their history shows they respond poorly to threats." Vex Moore waved away the concern. "Every species has its breaking point. Once they see our true power, they will make the wise choice." On Earth, as Susan's message arrived, President Russell called an emergency meeting of all world leaders. On the screen behind her, A single sentence appeared: "Prepare for Option Alpha." The human leaders nodded grimly. Option Alpha had been developed years ago. Appear weak, encourage the aliens to underestimate Earth, then reveal their true capabilities only when necessary. In orbit around Mars, hidden from Council sensors, the first fleet of Earth's advanced starships waited silently. The Council delegation arrived with far more ships than before. 20 large vessels entered Earth orbit, their weapon systems clearly visible. The message was not subtle. In Geneva, the United Earth Government headquarters buzzed with activity. President Frank Ortiz sat at the head of a long table, his face calm despite the tension in the room. "They're sending down 5 shuttles," reported the defense minister. "More representatives this time, including military personnel." Ortiz nodded. "Let them come. Remember the plan. We appear reasonable, even a little intimidated." The Council delegation landed on the large pad outside the Geneva complex. This time, the fearsome Krovac led the group. General Krud stood 8 feet tall, his red skin covered in battle scars, 4 arms each ending in clawed hands. "We bring terms from the Galactic Council," Krud announced as they entered the meeting hall. His translator made his voice sound even more threatening. President Ortiz stood to welcome them. "We are honored by your return. Please, share your message." The alien delegation seemed surprised by the polite reception. They had expected fear or anger after the show of force above. Krud placed a device on the table that projected a holographic document. "The Council has considered Earth's position and offers special terms." Ambassador Skither stepped forward to explain. "These provisions are more generous than our standard agreement. Resource contributions reduced to 1.5%. Technology restrictions only on weapons development. A seat on the lower council after 50 years instead of the usual 100. Ortiz and his team reviewed the document carefully. The human delegates whispered among themselves, giving the impression of serious consideration. In orbit, the alien fleet maintained position. On their command ship, Council observers monitored the meeting. "The humans appear more receptive this time," one reported. "Our display of strength was effective." After 3 hours of discussion, President Ortiz finally spoke. "We have reviewed your ultimatum carefully." "These are not," Skither began, but Krud silenced him with a gesture. "Let us be honest," Ortiz continued. "This is an ultimatum. Join under special restrictions or face isolation. We understand the choice before us." The alien delegation relaxed slightly. The humans were being reasonable after all. Ortiz stood up. "Earth must respectfully decline." The room went silent. Krud's upper arms twitched toward his weapons before he controlled himself. "Perhaps we have not made ourselves clear," Krud said, his voice low and dangerous. "The alternative is complete isolation. No trade, no cultural exchange, no protection." Ortiz smiled. "We understand. We choose independence." "This is madness," Ambassador Drell burst out. "Do you know how many threats exist in this galaxy? How will you survive alone?" "The same way we always have," Ortiz replied. "We adapt." He reached below the table and brought out a small object wrapped in cloth. He placed it before the delegation and unwrapped it, revealing an old leather-bound book. "A gift for the Council. This is a history of human conflicts from the past 500 years. You might find it educational." Krud stared at the book, confused by this strange response to a threat. "You face serious consequences for this decision," he warned. "We understand," Ortiz said, still smiling. "Our ships will escort yours back to the jump point whenever you're ready to depart." "What ships?" Krud demanded. As if on cue, a message came from the Council fleet in orbit. "Unknown vessels have appeared around our position. Hundreds of them. They were not there a moment ago." The delegation hurried back to their shuttles, the meeting effectively over. As they departed, General Maria Hayes entered the Geneva chamber. "Protocol Prometheus is fully activated," she reported to President Ortiz. All stealth ships are in position throughout Council space. Defense grid is at 100%. And our observer? Ortiz asked. Susan Barnes reports the Council is in chaos. They never expected us to decline again, especially not after their show of force. Ortiz picked up the history book the aliens had left behind. They study our wars but miss the point. We don't fight because we love conflict. We fight because we value freedom. Outside, the alien ships began to withdraw from Earth orbit, closely watched by previously hidden human vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere. In the lead shuttle, Crud turned to Skathair. They were never afraid. Why? Skathair had no answer. The emergency council session on Harmony 7 lasted for 3 full days. Representatives shouted over each other as fear spread through the chamber. How did they hide those ships? Demanded Ambassador Drell. Our scanners detected nothing until they were right beside us. High Chancellor Vex Moore struggled to maintain order. Reports kept arriving from scout ships, each more troubling than the last. The humans have established a defensive perimeter around their entire solar system, reported a Veltraxian commander. We count at least 300 vessels. After much debate, the Council voted. They would establish a blockade of Earth's solar system with 300 ships from various member species. This minimal show of force would isolate the humans while the Council decided on next steps. Within 2 weeks, the blockade took position at the edge of Sol system. Council ships formed a sphere around the entire system, monitoring all possible exit vectors. Admiral Yiln of the Bracari commanded the operation from his flagship, the Eternal Vigilance. Status report. Yiln ordered as he entered the bridge on the first day of the blockade. His second-in-command looked troubled. Sir, long-range scans show no human vessels approaching our line. Good. They're staying in their system. No, sir. I mean no vessels anywhere. The human ships we saw earlier, they're gone. Admiral Yiln frowned. That's impossible. 300 ships don't just disappear. The answer came 12 hours later. A Krovac battlecruiser at the far side of the blockade suddenly went silent. Then another, and another. On the 3rd day of the blockade, Admiral Yiln received an emergency transmission from the Krovac flagship Merciless. General Crud appeared on screen, his expression grim. We've been boarded, Crud reported. Small human vessels somehow attached to our hull without triggering alarms. They used an unknown technology to bypass our shields. Casualties? Yiln asked. None. That's the strangest part. They disabled our weapons and engines without killing anyone. Left all life support functioning. Crud's voice dropped lower. They left a message. A human face appeared on screen. Captain Alan Foster wore a simple blue uniform with minimal markings. His expression was serious, but not angry. This is Captain Foster of Earth Defense Forces. We asked to be left alone. This was your choice. We have disabled your vessel as a demonstration. Your crew is unharmed. We could have destroyed this ship, but that is not our way. Return to Council space. This is your only warning. The message ended. Admiral Yiln stared at the blank screen. Sir, his communications officer called out. We're receiving similar reports from 23 other vessels in the blockade, all disabled the same way. How? Yiln demanded. How did they get past our blockade? The answer came from an unexpected source. A junior officer approached with a datapad. Sir, they didn't get past our blockade, she said quietly. Analysis suggests they were already out here. The humans had ships positioned throughout this sector before we arrived. Reports flooded in from across Council space. Human vessels had been detected near major Council worlds. A small fleet was observed near Harmony 7 itself. None had engaged in hostile actions. They simply watched. On Earth, in the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Maria Hayes studied the holographic display of Council space. All teams report success, her aide informed her. 24 council vessels disabled without casualties, as ordered. Hayes nodded. And our deep space observers? In position throughout council territory. They're mapping everything. Defense systems, fleet movements, communication networks. President Ortiz entered the command center. The council is scrambling. Susan Barnes reports they've never faced anything like this. They expected us to either surrender or fight directly. Our approach confuses them. That's the point, Hayes replied. Confusion creates hesitation. Hesitation gives us time. And time is what we need. Ortiz agreed. Our new allies will be making contact soon. Allies? Hayes looked surprised. Several council races have secretly reached out, Ortiz explained. Not all of them agree with the council's methods. The Arcturians, in particular, seem quite impressed by our restraint. Across council space, fear spread quickly. The humans were everywhere, watching, analyzing, but not attacking. The unknown was far more terrifying than any direct assault could have been. Trellnox, the council's intelligence director, rarely showed emotion. Today, however, his 3 eyes were wide with panic as he burst into High Chancellor Vexmore's private chambers. Chancellor, we have a serious problem, he said, his voice shaking. The humans have been listening to everything. Vexmore looked up from his desk. Explain. Our encryption. They broke it. Completely. Trellnox placed a data crystal on the desk. This came from one of our sources on Earth. They've been intercepting and decoding all council communications since first contact. The message played on Vexmore's screen. A human woman with short gray hair appeared. I'm Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, head of Earth's Xenolinguistic Division. If you're seeing this, then your operative has delivered our message as requested. She smiled briefly. Your language structures are fascinating, but your encryption is, well, let's say it presented an interesting puzzle for my team. We solved it within 3 days of your first arrival. The message continued, revealing details of private council discussions that only insiders should have known. Vexmore's skin paled. This is a disaster. On Earth, Dr. Rodriguez sat in her underground laboratory surrounded by screens displaying alien text. Young linguists and code breakers worked at nearby stations, translating incoming council transmissions in real time. They'd received our message, one analyst reported. Trellnox delivered it directly to the Chancellor. Rodriguez nodded. Good. Now they know that we know. Across council space, strange events began to occur. On the Krovac homeworld, weapons manufacturing facilities reported mysterious failures. Navigation systems on military vessels suddenly showed incorrect coordinates. Power stations experienced unexplained fluctuations. None of these problems caused serious harm. They were inconveniences, annoyances, but they sent a clear message. Earth could reach anywhere. In the Council emergency session, representatives from 30 worlds demanded answers. How are they doing this? Shouted the Bracari ambassador. Our most secure facilities are experiencing system failures. Trellnox stepped forward. Analysis suggests the humans are using our own communication networks against us. They insert small code packets into our regular transmissions. When received, these packets activate and cause minor disruptions. Can we stop them? Asked Vexmore. Only by shutting down all inter-system communications, which would cripple council operations. The Arcturian representative rose. Perhaps it is time to consider that the humans do not wish to conquer or destroy. They have had multiple opportunities to inflict serious damage, yet they choose restraint. They're playing with us. General Crud slammed his fist on the table, like predators toying with prey. No, the Arcturian replied calmly. They're demonstrating capability without causing harm. There's a difference. On the council station's lower levels, Susan Barnes met secretly with representatives from 7 council races. The small conference room was secured against surveillance. My government authorized me to have this conversation, Susan explained. Earth has no desire for conflict with any peaceful species. Then why these demonstrations? Asked the next delegate, a being of shimmering light. To establish that threats against us will not succeed, Susan replied simply. We would prefer friendship, but we require respect. She placed a small device on the table. This contains proposed trade agreements between Earth and any interested parties. No political strings attached, just fair exchange of goods and knowledge. Several delegates reached for the device eagerly. Back on Earth, General Hayes reported to President Ortiz, Phase 3 complete. Council intelligence is in disarray. Their military command structure is confused and hesitant. Casualties? Ortiz asked. 0, as ordered. Ortiz nodded with satisfaction. And our secret contacts? Growing daily. 15 council races have now reached out privately. Many smaller worlds feel bullied by the council. They see us as potential allies. In his private chambers, Chancellor Vex Moore reviewed the latest reports with growing despair. The council was beginning to fracture. Several races were already ignoring the official position on Earth, seeking private arrangements. How did this happen? He asked his empty room. We only wanted to protect the galaxy from another aggressive species. His screen lit up with another alert. 3 more council ships had been temporarily disabled at the blockade line. The human message was always the same. We asked to be left alone. This was your choice. The Great Council chamber had never been so empty. Where once representatives from all 47 races had gathered, now barely 20 remained. The others had withdrawn, claiming internal matters required their attention. High Chancellor Vex Moore knew the truth. They had abandoned the Council's position on Earth. The Arcturians, Balerians, and Next Collective have officially signed separate agreements with the humans, reported Trellnox. 12 other races are in talks to do the same. General Crud pounded the table. Traitors. They break thousands of years of unity over these humans. Perhaps the unity was not as strong as we believed, the Veltraxian ambassador suggested quietly. On a neutral space station near the border of Council space, human diplomat Kyle Warren met with representatives from 15 species. Unlike the formal council chambers, this meeting took place in a comfortable lounge. Drinks and food from various worlds were shared. Earth offers fair trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense if needed, Warren explained. His translator conveyed his words to all present. We ask only that you recognize our sovereignty and our right to develop without outside control. The Balerian representative, a tall being with iridescent wings, leaned forward. The council claims humans are dangerous, unpredictable. Warren smiled. We can be when threatened, but Earth has a long history of peaceful alliances when we're treated as equals. The council will not forgive this meeting, warned the next delegate. Then perhaps the council needs to change, Warren replied, or be replaced with something better. Meanwhile, the remaining council hardliners prepared for war. High General Kivax of the Krovac, Crud's superior, assembled the largest battle fleet seen in centuries. 200 heavy warships gathered near Harmony 7. The humans must be taught a lesson. Kivax declared to his officers, we strike directly at Earth. Once it falls, the wayward council members will return to the fold. But not all agreed. Commander Lirtal of the Veltraxian fleet approached her superior privately. General, I must express concerns about this action. Speak, Kivax ordered. The humans have shown advanced technology and an extensive presence throughout our space, yet they've harmed no one. Is direct attack wise? Kivax dismissed her concerns. They use tricks and deception to appear stronger than they are. Their restraint shows weakness, not strength. As the council fleet prepared to depart, 5 ship captains suddenly reported technical difficulties that prevented them from joining. Then 10 more. Soon, nearly 40 ships had withdrawn from the attack force. On Earth, defensive preparations reached their final stage. President Ortiz addressed the world from the United Earth headquarters. For decades, we prepared in secret for this moment, he told his people. Today, we reveal our true capabilities. Across Earth, thousands of hidden platforms rose from the oceans, emerged from mountain hideaways, and decloaked in orbit. Each carried advanced defensive systems unknown to the Council. In space, Admiral John Miller commanded Earth's main fleet from his flagship, Liberty. Defense grid activation complete, his tactical officer reported. Energy shield ready to deploy. And our new allies? Miller asked. The Arcturians have positioned their fleet at our system's edge. They will not fight for us, but they've made it clear they won't allow the Council fleet easy passage either. On Harmony 7, a junior officer rushed into Kavax's war room. General, we've intercepted communications. The humans have activated some kind of planetary defense system. Kavax sneered. Propaganda to scare us. The officer swallowed hard. Sir, our long-range scans confirm it. Energy readings like nothing we've ever seen. For the first time, doubt crossed Kavax's face. Then he hardened his expression. It changes nothing. The fleet departs in 6 hours. Throughout Council space, word spread quickly. The Krovac were leading a direct assault on Earth. Many worlds watched with growing concern. Some began to wonder if they had chosen the wrong side. Commander Lurtal returned to her quarters and made a decision. She activated a secure channel that Dr. Rodriguez had provided weeks earlier. This is Commander Lurtal of the Veltraxian Defense Force. I have information about the planned attack on Earth. I believe this conflict is unnecessary and immoral. On Earth, General Hayes received the message. It seems we have friends in unexpected places, she told President Ortiz. The question is, do we use what we've learned to prevent this attack, or to win it decisively? Ortiz considered for a moment. Both. Reach out to Kavax with one final warning. If he proceeds anyway, we show them exactly what humanity is capable of. The Krovac attack fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 160 warships, the largest force General Kavax could gather after the many defections. No response to our final warning, Admiral Miller reported to President Ortiz in Earth's command center. They're moving toward Mars orbit. Ortiz nodded grimly. Activate the shield. Throughout the solar system, human ships moved into defensive positions. On Earth itself, civilians watched their skies with a mix of fear and determination. They had been preparing for this day for years. A technician's voice rang out in the command center. Shield activating in 3, 2, 1. Across the planet, thousands of hidden platforms glowed blue. Energy beams shot upward, connecting in a complex web until the entire Earth was covered in a shimmering dome of energy. On the Krovac flagship Dominance, Kavax watched the sensor readings with disbelief. What is that? He demanded. His science officer stared at the readings. Some kind of energy shield, sir. It completely encapsulates the planet. Our weapons, they might not penetrate it. Kavax dismissed the concern with a wave. Target their orbital defenses first. Once those are gone, we'll deal with the shield. The Krovac fleet opened fire on Earth's orbital platforms. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human defenses. Not a single shot hit its target. Sir, reported a Krovac weapons officer, their defensive systems are intercepting everything. Even our newest targeting computers can't get through. Kavax slammed his fist on his command chair. Move closer. All ships, advance, and concentrate fire. As the Council fleet pressed forward, a new voice came over their communication systems. Vice Admiral Nicole Cruz of Earth Defense Forces appeared on their screens. This is your final opportunity to withdraw, she stated calmly. We have no desire for war, but we will defend ourselves. Kavax cut the transmission. Ignore their warnings. Continue the attack. For 3 hours, the Council fleet fired everything they had at Earth's defenses. Nothing got through. The shield held firm, and the orbital platforms remained untouched. Then Earth fought back. Target weapons and engines only, Vice Admiral Cruz ordered. Minimal casualties. Earth's defense platforms and ships fired in perfect coordination. Precision beams struck the Krovac vessels, disabling weapon systems and engines without breaching life support or crew quarters. Within minutes, 40 Council ships drifted powerless. Within an hour, over half the attack fleet was disabled. Krovacs watched in horror as ship after ship reported systems failures. This is impossible. How are they doing this? Sir, his second-in-command said quietly, perhaps we should consider withdrawal. Never. Krovacs shouted. The Council does not retreat. At that moment, new ships appeared on their sensors. The Arcturian fleet had arrived, positioning themselves between the remaining Council forces and Earth. The Arcturian Supreme Commander opened a channel to all ships. The attack on Earth ends now. The Council no longer speaks with one voice on this matter. More ships appeared. The Belerians, the Nyx Collective. One by one, the races that had signed agreements with Earth arrived to stand beside them. Krovacs stared at the viewscreen in shock. We're surrounded. On Harmony 7, Chancellor Vexmore received the news of the battle with growing dismay. Reports flooded in from across Council space. More races were withdrawing from the Council every hour. It's over, he told his advisors. The Council as we knew it is finished. As the disabled Krovac ships were towed away by their still-functioning companions, a small human vessel approached Harmony 7. On board was Dr. Paul Jackson, Earth's chief diplomat. We request permission to dock, Jackson transmitted. Earth wishes to propose a new way forward. Vexmore hesitated, then gave his permission. What choice did he have? Jackson's team arrived with no weapons, no guards, just data pads containing a simple proposal: dissolution of the old Council and formation of a new interstellar community based on equal standing for all species. The old way is over, Jackson told Vexmore, but something better can take its place. On Earth, as news of the victory spread, people celebrated not with boasts of power, but with relief. They had defended themselves without destroying their opponents. They had made new allies. And now, perhaps, they could help build something better. In the command center, President Ortiz watched the celebrations with a tired smile. Phase 1 complete, he said softly. Now the real work begins. 6 months after first contact, representatives from 63 worlds gathered on a massive space station near the former Council border. The humans had built this station in just 3 months, naming it Concordia, a word meaning harmony and agreement. The station's grand meeting hall was nothing like the hierarchical council chamber. Here, all seats formed a perfect circle. No race sat higher or lower than any other. Eric Sullivan, Earth's lead negotiator, stood at the center of the circle. At 58, his gray hair and calm demeanor gave him a look of wisdom that appealed to many alien species. We gather today not as rulers and subjects, not as senior and junior members, but as equals, Sullivan began. Each world brings its own gifts to our new community. Former enemies now sat side by side. The Arcturians beside the Bracari, the Nyx Collective next to the Veltraxians, and most surprising of all, a Krovac delegation watched from their section. After the failed attack on Earth, the Krovac government had collapsed. Their new leaders, younger and more progressive, had requested a place at the talks. Their economy, too dependent on council support, could not survive alone. The proposal before you was simple, Sullivan continued. A new interstellar charter based on 5 core principles: sovereignty, fair trade, cultural exchange, mutual defense, and shared exploration. For 3 days, the representatives discussed the details. Unlike the Council's approach of presenting non-negotiable terms, the humans listened to every concern and suggestion. On the final day, Chancellor Vexmore approached Sullivan during a break. The once powerful leader now served as just one representative among many. I must ask, Vexmore said quietly, how did you know it would work? This approach. Sullivan smiled. We didn't, but human history taught us that forcing our will on others never brings true peace. Only respect does. Vexmore considered this. The Council existed for 3,000 years. We truly believed our way was best. Most empires believe that, Sullivan replied, until they meet someone who refuses to be ruled. When the final charter was presented, 61 worlds signed immediately. Only the Krovak and one other race asked for more time to consider. Even they joined 2 weeks later. The signing ceremony was broadcast throughout known space. As each representative added their mark to the document, cheers erupted from their homeworlds. The first principle of the new charter read, "The sovereignty of all sentient species shall not be infringed." After the ceremony, Sullivan met privately with Admiral Miller in his office aboard Concordia. "Congratulations," Miller said, offering a rare smile. "6 months ago, we were facing isolation or war. Now we've helped create something extraordinary." "We had good teachers," Sullivan replied. "Every failed alliance and war in human history showed us what not to do." Miller nodded toward the viewport, where ships from dozens of worlds moved peacefully around the station. "What about the rumors that some species beyond Council space are far less friendly than anything we've encountered?" "That's why we built this alliance," Sullivan said. "Together, we're stronger than any threat." As representatives prepared to return to their homeworlds, Earth revealed one final surprise. President Ortiz arrived at the station to personally invite all delegates to witness humanity's newest breakthrough. In the massive observation deck, hundreds of alien representatives watched as a human ship moved into position. Without warning, it simply vanished. Seconds later, it reappeared on the other side of the station. Instantaneous transportation, Ortiz announced to the stunned crowd. "A technology we developed 5 years ago, but kept private until now." Admiral Miller, standing beside former Chancellor Vex Moore, noticed the alien's shocked expression. "You had this capability all along?" Vex Moore asked. "Even when we threatened you?" Miller nodded. "We could have sent ships directly to any Council world at any time. We chose restraint instead. Why show us now?" "Because now we're allies, not threats to each other." As the delegates departed the next day, many looking at humans with new respect, and some with new concern about what other technologies Earth might possess, Vex Moore sought out Miller one last time. "I believe I understand now," the former Chancellor said. "When we first met, we should have simply said hello instead of presenting demands." Miller smiled. "That would have been a good start." As Concordia Station became the center of a new era of cooperation, Earth continued to share its innovations, but always kept developing new ones, just in case. Humanity had learned long ago that true peace came through both friendship and strength.